Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Francesca Cohen. This is Inspiration for Life. By way of an introduction to a three-part message that I'll be sharing over the next weeks, I want to talk about graciousness, something we don't hear very much about these days, a lost art in many ways. John O'Donohue, in his stunning book, Beauty, the Invisible Embrace, says there are times when life is little more than a matter of struggle and endurance, when difficulty and disappointment form a crust around the heart. Because it can hurt deeply, the heart hardens. I think this is so true of our times. And he quotes Pascal, who says, in difficult times, you should always carry something beautiful in your mind. Now, this may seem like a useless poetic contribution for these very troubled times, but I believe the reestablishing of graciousness and the art of graciousness, beauty and dignity should not be overlooked. O'Donohue talks about making a clearance of endless chatter and psychological labeling so we can actually see who we are, see where we are, and not to reduce the beauty of who we are in this magnificent world of possibilities to contorted shapes that bring us neither shelter nor invitation. Neither shelter nor invitation. What a tragedy that would be. Lord, may it never be that we fail to offer shelter and invitation to ourselves and to our fellow man. Let us always have within us an open door to the divine abode that reflects the divine nature. Psalm 116:5 says, the Lord is gracious, full of compassion. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, rich in love. The Lord is good to all. I love that. What is this graciousness? The dictionary tells us it's pleasantness, kindness, benevolence, courteousness. It is civility. And I believe it's such an important quality, this graciousness, to cultivate it. First, because it describes God, and the world needs evidence of this gracious God. But we must believe that first, God is gracious. For we who are called by his name or call ourselves by his name, if we do not perceive God as unconditionally loving and gracious, we will likely not be able to cultivate that quality within ourselves. So first, let us bask in that beauty of God, the true God. This graciousness is powerful. O'Donohue describes it this way: graciousness dignifies human presence. And when it is present, it brings out the best in people. It opens a perspective which enables us to see the gifts we have. Can you see how true that is? Where graciousness is absent, we shut down, we wither up, we close the door. But where there is graciousness, there is a sense of welcome, there is a sense of invitation. And we open up and begin to recognize the gifts we have both in ourselves and in the people around us and in the world around us. He says graciousness creates an atmosphere which awakens the nobility of mind and heart. A gracious mind has compassion and sensitive understanding. How needed is that right now in our world? When they are neglected, he says, beauty and graciousness recede. And the flow of gifts that we might otherwise contain dry up. We must not neglect beauty and graciousness. I'm not talking about an outward adornment of beauty or something that you see in a magazine. I'm talking about that beauty, that inexpressible depth that is in us, that is our true treasure. That is God in us and weaved into our authentic self. I believe we need to learn this art of inner reverence, this development of graciousness, so that the soul, as he says, is never forced out into a false light for the sake of social gratification and expectation. You can see the harshness to that. Let us rather observe an appropriate silence regarding our interiority, so that our talk is not weak. In a culture where there is a morass of secondhand chatter, we need to mind our hearing, he says. Otherwise it becomes dull and deaf to the voice of what is real, the substance that is real, the aletheia, the truth. Not just a thing called the truth, but the substance, the presence, the absence of illusion, so that we can truly connect and not just greet each other as these products, these shapes, these forced, contrived presentations of ourselves in this world for the sake of survival. And so some words came to mind this week that I want to read to you, that are a call to breathe, to soften, not in a way that's wimpy and emotional, but in a way that helps us to bring down the self-created walls of our own captivity. Walls that are created out of fear, walls that are created out of neglect, walls that are created out of abuse that we've experienced, that cause us to feel like we're not welcome in the world, that we can't arrive fully integrated, body, soul, spirit, showing up in our God-likeness and image of graciousness and dignity and worth. It's a call to soften so that we might become perhaps more like water, malleable, willing to yield, in trust of God's absolute certainty of goodness. And it says this: soften, my darling. Soften the way you look at your life and the world around you. Soften your eyes to notice the beauty that calls to your heartbeat from near and far. Drink in the misty waves of mercy that guide you on serendipity's avenue. Rest your gaze on tender hues that mend your vision with intimate kindness. Soften your thoughts to blend with grace. Open your heart to heaven's radiance, bright with infinite starlight bold, igniting your soul with passion's warmth. Align your dreams with the softness of trust. Hold them with certainty, bathed in love. Gently caress your hopes with assurance, feeling their substance with every touch. This call to soften the way we look at our lives and the world around us, I believe, is more than just a meaningless poetic contribution. I believe it is essential at this time that we take a breath, that we intend to listen, not just for the same rhetoric that we've been speaking out of our default operating systems, but to listen to the inbirthing of something fresh within us, something fresh from spirit that enables us to see our world a different way, through the eyes of love, through the eyes of compassion, and through the eyes of graciousness.